Strategic Planning Committee for September 12th, 2019 is called to order. Roll call, Mr. Randy Kluat is not here. And Mr. Kagalai, would you do the invocation?
In the Father, the Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet here tonight to conduct the business of the people of Ascension Parish. Guide us to do the right thing for the people in their best interests, and let us make good judgments for their intent. We ask this through your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no chair's addition, public comment period. If anyone want to speak, you can fill out the red card. If you're against the item, you can fill out the green card if you're in favor of it. Give it to the secretary and you will be recognized on that topic. Item number 5, approval of May 9th, 2019 Strategic Planning Committee meeting minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion by Mr. Todd and second by Doc. No objection, minutes approved. Item number 6, discussion and approval of disadvantaged business enterprise study. Mr. Cedric Grant, Management Group. Before Mr. Grant starts speaking, I'd just like to bring you up to date on this. We've been trying to pass this thing or move this thing forward for a couple of years, and disadvantaged business enterprise is basic, giving our small business in Ascension Parish an opportunity to be part of government big project. We have a courthouse is being built, $30 million, but we don't have nothing for our local small business to be part of it. And so disadvantaged business enterprise, give them an opportunity. The state does it, the federal government does it, a lot of municipality does it. And so last year we approved it for the administration to go out and get someone to come back and give us a plan, an action, and administration, if I'm not correct, did that about 6-7 months ago.
Yeah, I think we finished the contract probably a couple months ago. Yes, sir.
Right. So Mr. Grant is our representative, and we also asked them to come back to us. And so now, Mr. Grant, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for the opportunity to provide you this information. I was charged by the administration to research disadvantaged business programs in the state and in the nation, and offered to you what might be a prototype for best practices in the field of disadvantaged business. The disadvantaged business program has been basically in effect about 25 years now. It's going through a bunch of legal challenges, and what now you see before you and what we're bringing forth is something that has passed every legal test, both state and nationally, and is recognized as the way this work is done. Basically, what it does is create a race and gender neutral capacity building program designed to engage locally owned and socially economic disadvantaged businesses that have been traditionally underserved in goods and services in a local jurisdiction. So it's a very formal program. It requires people to sign up. It requires a bunch of outreach to go get them to participate. It requires, if once you're in, you really need to keep people engaged in the program and tell them where the opportunities are. In many programs, working with other partners, you're able to provide training and get them ready. It's also, the upside of it now is that once you're in the program like this, you get to ensure compliance. And that was a red flag historically in these programs where people would sign up and, you know, they'd be represented by others and the like. Those that really work, there's a compliance component. You go out to the job site, you make sure that people are working, you make sure the goods and services are being delivered to the point where if they're not, you hold invoices of the general contractor, and you make sure that everybody's doing what they said they would agree to, and you can move forward in that way. What we're recommending here is that to get you started, because there's a bunch of work coming through this parish, and this is a very deliberative and engaged process that you just really need to go through to make sure you can ensure that it works, is that what the city of New Orleans did when it was embarking on a bunch of the Katrina recovery, it needed to adjust its program. So what it did is basically allowed itself to offer reciprocity to those that were already in the state program, the Department of Transportation and the Department of Economic Development, which allowed the database of people available to do work to stand there. I will tell you, as you stand here today, the Department of Transportation database has 16 businesses in Ascension Parish out of 900 that are eligible to do work in the state. We can grow that because there's easily over several hundred in the Ascension Parish Chamber database that have not been engaged and have not been brought into a program such as this and given the opportunity to participate in providing goods and services for the parish. It's a new initiative that's come out of the state that's borne a lot of fruit is veterans-owned businesses. That's what allow veterans-owned businesses to also participate in this program. And basically, they've offered 3 certifications through that program that in this reciprocity agreement, you would be able to initially provide. Those people would subsequently then be put through the rigors of your program and then certified in the Ascension Parish program and offered the opportunity to bid on the work that you have. Again, go through all of the opportunity and procurement plans that are available. We would provide, and we would suggest strongly that you provide a program advisor that would, again, give you quarterly reports on what was procured and who's doing the work, and create an electronic vendor database that shows you that the people are there and available, and provide an annual report to the council on what actually is being done and where the holes in the program are and where they need to be adjusted. This is a program that requires attention. You can't just put it in place and leave it alone. You have to make sure people are engaged and doing what they say they're going to do. As you can see from the information I provided, you have the U.S. Department of Transportation, the SBA, the Louisiana Economic Development Department, Women Business Enterprise, national and local programs, and all of these other programs that you can draw on for expertise and provide you with the opportunity to get this right and provide real opportunity to people. And the last thing I say for last is that the way this really works is you set goals. You set goals on how much of the procurement would be available for those folks. And in order to do that, you have to know who's in your program so you can decide who's available to do that work. It's just not just throw a 10% or 15 or 20% number. It's 20% of the people that are available that can actually do that work can then you solicit those people to engage in that work. It's a very formal program. It's worked. I ran the state program for a number of years. I ran the City of New Orleans and City Sewage and Water Board program and helped set up others. So what we're offering you is the framework that has worked in the state. We're offering you the framework that works around this country, and willing to work with your staff and trying to put this in place for you. But as I said, because you have so much work coming so quickly, you could jumpstart this program with a reciprocity agreement with the Department of Transportation and others to get people that are already qualified and available to do work.
Okay. Question, Mr. Grant,
Yeah,
Todd.
Mr. Cedric, I guess what I'm looking at is what is the cost to the parish and what kind of staff do we have that the parish would need to operate this?
I could see it being done with a couple of people. I mean, no more than two. You know, I mean, I imagine that built out, you might have access to about 400 or 500 businesses. Once they're certified, which all can be done, there's software that allows it to be done electronically and so the maintenance of it becomes manageable. The real opportunity is to go out and see people doing the work. So that depends on how much effort.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking a larger staff. If you got that many, you got to go check on, you know?
Right, I mean, in the city, there's about 4 people that do it, but it's a much larger database of people involved in the work. I could see you growing this, you know, over the years to maybe maximum of 3, but, you know, maybe 2 to start.
And what's the cost to kick it off? You
Well-
said you would come in and get it started for us?
Well, again, I was brought in on a small agreement, you know, 14,000 to get you to the point of organization, to get you to the point of policies and procedures, to get you to the point of a, you know, framework that you could put in place for staff. I mean, certainly available to do additional training if you wanted staff trained up on it and the like, but there are people out there that do this all the time. I mean, you know, at state and local level that are available and certified to be disadvantaged business enterprise employees. So,
And Ken, is there anybody on staff that we have now that could man this? We would definitely have to go out for extra.
I think we possibly have some people that probably would express their interest, and maybe you're interested in doing something. We can kind of divide some duties. But also, as Mr. Grant said, the initial setup and things of that nature, you know, we will need some assistance from outside consultation to be able to do it, to bring that expertise in. And as we grow the program, you know, I think that for instance, if we have someone that's in administration or area that has some time that could possibly take it over a certain point, but as we grow the program, I can see that, you know, we probably will need additional staff to do it. But on the outset, I think we have a lot of work, and Mr. Grant can help me with this. We have a lot of initial work that has to be done before we get to that point.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a while before we embark on that.
So I guess the cost benefit of this program is, you know, I know the parish is not going to make anything on it. It's just a service.
Well, I think so. I think that when you look at the cost benefit, you know, you are actually having businesses in Ascension Parish that spend money in the tax base that will be gaining from businesses being done. For instance, we have a $30 million courthouse being built, and the more people you have in Ascension Parish that are working on that can provide those services, I think that you see the kind of tax repercussions in it that would definitely benefit the parish more in that way.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Cedric. I'm interested in this. Say it from the outset. A few questions. I was looking through your materials that are in our packets tonight. People can't see that at home, but it talks about, and you did mention the position, a program advisor.
yes, sir.
And it looks like that would be an individual that typically, unless we would decide, I guess otherwise, that would be a parish president appointee.
So no,
I'm sorry?
it's totally up to,
Well, I mean, it says it in my packet, but that's not set in stone.
it's staff.
Okay, so whoever's going to appoint them, whether it's this committee, the full council, the parish president, a combination A, B, C above, or B and C on Tuesday and A on Wednesday, okay? My concern is I'd want to know who's going to decide how to, the note I captured, what's the job description going to look like, what the qualifications that person is. Now, I do realize Mr. Dawson stated just moments ago that we probably would, and I would advise that if we're going to go down the line with this, get an outside consultant, to advise us even in that and to put the whole program together. Unless, I don't know, it's not I see in there sometimes it refers to strategic planning meeting. I don't know what that is unless you're talking about this committee.
Well,
It might
I
just be
was
a typo.
told that right now, that's who was handling it.
Yeah,
So that's
but no, is it going to be our job? And Mr.
No,
Chairman
no,
said to my
no.
left here, Mr. OJ is going to put this program together, or, and look, I'm not shy of doing work or anything.
Sure.
And if you don't know it, I am a university, I'm very proud of this, certified master trainer of multicultural diversity trainers. So I believe in some of these things within proper guidelines and limits, and I'm not surprised you said that, for example, This thing has over 25 years history, had some legal challenges, but I trust that that's probably long before it got down to our level.
Yes,
It's
sir.
been worked out at the state and city and municipality levels and all where it's being practiced. So that said, I don't know, Mr. Chairman, you tell me or Ken or anybody, how can this committee continue? I think we did the right thing last time in getting you here. And when OJ went over the history, it was spot on, saying that we need to know more about it and all before we, and I don't know if we're here to even act tonight, Mr. Chairman, you tell me.
Well,
You know,
I'm gonna let Mr. Cagle on it before I put my little 2 cents in.
Okay.
all right.
Thank you, Cedric, for coming and
sir.
making the presentation. One of the things, I dealt with a major contractor, an engineering firm who headed up projects, okay, for the government and in the private sector. And in the government, it was a very strong advantage for them to use DBEs, and they had a lot of them. But occasionally they ran into trouble. The company I worked for, they would hire a DBE, and they would come in and they would start working for one contractor and go to work for another one, and before you know it, they lost their certification because they grew too big. Do you have plans to have guidelines in here that
Yes, sir.
once they get to a certain level of success, if you want to call
Right.
it that,
The
and they're
standards-
no longer economically,
You can set the standards where you want, but federal standards are $5 million
Okay.
as a consultant, or
Yeah, that's what I
and
was
$10 million
curious
as a
yeah,
contract.
we were in the aerospace industry, and I think it was like 7,500,000
Yes.
or something like that. But once they acquired that much annual revenue, they
they
moved out of
graduate.
that DBE and became
Yes,
just
sir.
a typical
That's
contractor. Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, the biggest thing is exactly what you asked, all those concerned, and that's why I would love to see it to move forward so we can actually look at the document, have limitation on what is the cost that these DBEs will affect the parish. You know, I know, we have, the courthouse is $30 million, and we don't know nobody here. We got the levee gonna be coming up, we have dredging, we have sewage, we have roads, we have all kind of things coming here, and like they said, we only have 16 business in Ascension Parish is eligible for this thing. But we don't have a program. And these programs are state programs. These roads we're fixing are our roads. These levees are our levees. You know, the sewage project is our sewage project. So we're not doing our constituent any favor if we avoid doing this. It's very important we need to go forward. I know it's a slow process and learn more, get you more interested, but if we stop here, I mean, I've been trying to do this for over 5 years. This is the further I done got with it so far. Not me, myself personally, but as a group. So I would love to just move forward with it, let administration come back, and then we'll, work with that, get more information on it. But I would like to move it forward, and at least administration can come back with us with ordinance or something like that for final approval, and we have some things that we can work out and understand more. Todd asked a question was staffing. Okay, we can look at staffing here, and look, we got economic development. That's part of their job too. I mean, they can work with that too. That office can be there because that's very important on how this thing can be done. So we do have the ability to do it. It's just do we have the willingness to go move forward with it. So,
I guess the big thing too, is it's gonna have to be a budget amendment, so we need to know about what is it gonna be to kickstart. I know his 14,000, he mentioned staff and, equipment. How much are we gonna need to get this kick-started? That's gonna be a key thing to bring to the full council. That question's gonna be
And
asked.
then maintain, yeah.
Yeah,
Finance.
because we're gonna have to maintain our finance first, whichever way we go with it. Whether we move forward tonight, pending what's the initial cost and amendment to the budget, and it's gonna have to come out of general fund for sure. And
I guess I'm understanding from, if I understand correctly, what we want to do is to have, Mr. Grant has some things that he's looking at to get us to a point where we have more understanding of what it's going to take to put a program together. And we're going to come back with the details of what the guts are in putting the program together. and then come up with, based upon the information that he finds and what he does, we can then have a particular cost attached with that.
A proposal?
Yeah, a proposal for that
So
particular
the
effort.
initial
because-
cost would be Mr. Grant's
Yeah, when he does,
services.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
yes, definitely.
Helping us chart the course. And, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
back to what you had said, Ken, I've seen these programs in other areas. I was in the military out in California, and I was in Oklahoma and Nebraska. They work very well. And what you said, I'll echo that. It keeps the revenue. The people are here. They live here. They have their offices here. They buy equipment, and it's here. And most of their employees, the operators or the people that do the work, are residents here. So you're generating a revenue stream that's going to stay in the parish. It's going to be spent in the parish. So it's a good thing.
Doc?
Yeah, and as a follow-up to what Mr. Cagnalotti just said, Cedric, and again, for the people that are keeping score at home, they can't see what's in our packet. It says in here about who does the program target. I want everybody to understand this. A DBE, it says, means a for-profit business, 51% owned, managed, and controlled by one or more individuals that are socially or economically disadvantaged. And I'm going to get to that because it's one of your bullet statements that I need clarity on in a minute. So it means a business that meets the following criteria. A locally owned business, I'm all for that. A corporation or an LLC or a domestic partnership that's in good standing with our state Secretary of State's office, Louisiana's Secretary of State, I should say. Definitely all good with that. Business with the main office or headquarters in Ascension Parish? Amen, brother. A business that has a current occupational license? That's pretty important. Now the fifth and sixth bullets. A socially and economically disadvantaged business enterprise. How is that going to be determined? Is it by strictly an ethnical group? Like people of color, Hispanics, Asian folks, and so forth. And then the last bullet that they can't see says a veterans-owned business type thing. And beyond ethnicity, of course, is the gender issue.
Yes, sir.
Let me rephrase that. I know better than to say gender. It's sex. And I'm talking about the main two that I know about, men and women. So women are disadvantaged. There's no denying that in my mind. Maybe in some, although my wife would argue she's much more advantaged than I am, type thing. So is that something that we would actually control and spell out, or is that
Yes.
something that's just well accepted and known
Well-
as to what constitutes the socially and economically disadvantaged enterprise as it relates to sex and ethnicity?
Sadly, you've hit on what has historically been the sticking point, and quite honestly, that definition is now based on economics, okay, and social standing. So basically, that would be a part of the education process of your staff to help them understand the 4 or 5 criteria that you might agree to that would determine socially and economically disadvantaged. Okay, you don't want anything arbitrary. You want it to be clear, people can understand it up front. You know, I've got a small business, it's 100,000 or under. You know, my tax returns for the last 3 years tell you I haven't made any money. You know, it's some specific criteria that I just went through the process for the Department of Transportation. They wanted my tax returns for the last 3 to 5 years. They wanted, you know, what do I own, what I don't own, and they were able to make that determination in a very, you know, not the subjective way at all.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And the real reason I ask, let me throw out an extreme example, and I'm quite known for doing so amongst my colleagues. And we'll pick on a national issue. We have POTUS, that's President of the United States, candidate. It's one, I don't know exact number, 2,054 Native American. If that person opened a business in Ascension Parish, would that person be considered a disadvantaged and owned 100% of the business? The thing says here 51% or more. Let's say 100%. Would that be an eligible individual for DBE? Or I'm curious how this is going to be done.
Well, again, I would refer you to not reinvent the wheel, to use current state and federal guidelines on those kinds of things, but
I
like
guess I
said-
just haven't seen those, so I don't,
well, that's
my
what
level
I'm
of
saying.
income is I just
I
haven't
think
seen
there's
them.
some,
I'm
I
not,
think there are some state statutes
yes, sir,
and criteria that have to
Yes,
be
sir.
met.
Very specific.
And
So we
we
could-
could even establish our own if necessary.
That's correct.
We could either mimic, as Mr. Cagliari just said, we could either mimic that or as a political subdivision, local governing authority, establish our own.
Exactly.
Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Mr. Grant, I just want to make sure, DBE programs are, a major company may come in here and bid on the road project. It's a $50 million project. All this program do is assure that whatever that goal is, that we appoint 5%, 10% of DBE will get that portion of it.
Right.
You know, so a DBE will not get a $50 million project. It's just based on a 20% of 10%, 20% of whatever we agreed on. That major contractor would have to go out and look at our local DBE program and say, okay, I need concrete people, I need 5 of them. Who you have on DBE program? Well, then they will select those 5 or the best 5 they got that qualify for it. And they will work that through that DBE coordinator that we have, because they're gonna ask for all that information. And if that DBE company have a good record and good standing with the parish, you know, that's high points for them. So they most likely will be favorable of getting that type of job with a major contract. Now, if you have a bad record, that coordinator basically gonna say, you know, we might give him another chance, but the odds of him getting it is not good. So,
And will the government bid process take place with
Yes,
this?
sir.
Because you still got to go out for bids, right?
The
Anywhere
way,
there-
the way it works,
Yeah,
you set a goal based on the number of businesses that you have in your database that are available to do this work. The general contractor that is the low bidder has his responsibility to reach out to those disadvantaged businesses and get prices from them and submit that as a part of his bid.
part of his bid, okay.
Yes, sir.
But if, I don't mean to jump.
Go ahead, Don.
But if the contract, so it's the contractor's responsibility, but nonetheless, the ultimate decision will be made by some part of this council. So I'm curious about if the individual is competitive bid-wise, the contract is obligated to send, I mean, if they're not competitive bid, either way, they're obligated to send that information forward to us. So we will know, because I mean, with the state bid laws, when you go and you don't accept the lowest bid, you know what happens.
Right.
Well, sometimes anyways,
Well, again, you
within
have,
reason anyway.
right, you also have some very interesting opportunities coming before this council for some of the large projects you have that have alternate procurements. The alternate procurements are not governed by this. You can set the goals wherever you want.
Okay.
So what are you looking for tonight?
I move forward to let administration continue to work forward, to come back with a better structure, guidelines, and stuff to start introducing to us.
And that's
They're gonna come
actual
back
hiring.
to us.
Not
Basic,
yet.
basic administration, we didn't hire, you know, administration still would, work who, if they wanna go out for whatever they wanna do, RFQ or whatever, but based on how they wanna go with, move forward.
Do we have to move this forward to the council, right?
Not,
Just
But we can only
out
recommend.
of kid-
Yeah.
committee.
yeah,
If you
going
make
to
a
the
motion, it would have to be a recommendation.
It's a
Get the
recommendation.
administration
To the council.
recommend to this committee, and then we go forward, something like that, or?
Well,
No, we
don't-
recommend, we
We don't
recommend,
have to recommend just to, as I understand in our bylaws, to the full council. We can recommend to the administration to put something together, but then it has to come back here for us to recommend it. Eventually, it's got to go to the
That's
council.
what
Then it
John
goes
was
to
So it
the
depends on
council.
whether you want another
So-
step in
So
here
it'd be
or
a-
just go directly to the
I
Get
mean-
the
council.
information and come back to us.
well, I guess, here's the question is, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Grant or administration, that next process is establishing an ordinance together to move forward for the program. So we.
One of the
you'll-
steps would be an ordinance. Yes, sir.
So
Along
we
with the
will be
policy.
approving him to move forward to draft that and implement, and come back to implement a program too.
Yeah.
basically.
to have the
Propose it,
details
propose it for
of what the
implementation.
program will entail, the details of the structure of the program, and provide that information, and then have a draft ordinance that could be looked at and recommended. Okay?
It's always-
Before I say next meeting with Todd, said, I don't know how long that might take.
Mr. Grant.
I'll start tonight.
Oh, so it might take a little,
Once again, it's
timeline, y'all may need more time.
We've done a bunch of
Mr.
research.
because
Chairman.
those goals he's
Mr.
talking
Chairman.
about, he gonna have to do analysis of how many jobs, and what is the supply is, I mean, electrician, plumbers and all that.
Mr.
He got to
Chairman.
do all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
whenever you get it ready, get it on the agenda to move
You
forward
wanna-
back.
I'll work with Mr.
Gonna
Grant,
ask-
and then whenever
Ask
we're ready, we'll
administrators
bring it back.
updates,
Yeah, we can
monthly
have that.
updates on where they are. That'd be a good idea.
We basically, our motion is to authorize the administration move forward with Mr. Grant to do the feasibility study for the percentage and analysis and draft up an ordinance,
Yes.
and then come back to us.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Okay, so
Thank
is
you.
that a motion?
You need a motion, I
Yeah.
will.
All right,
Second.
motion by Mr. Todd,
Second.
second by
I'll second it. Or-
either, anyone you want.
Cagliari.
Cagliari or Doc, they both second it. All right, thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item number 6. Discussion of proposal to amend the Home Rule Charter, Section 4-18, to limit Ascension Planning Commission to authorize, approve, or deny subdivision preliminary plats. Doc Sapp.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll begin with a little bit of history, and then maybe we can cut right to the chase.
Excuse me, Doc, we do have some speakers, and then,
Okay, that'd be great. Love to hear what they have to say.
who you got?
Are you going? Are we call? Yeah,
I'm sorry?
it's okay. We usually call them up.
Oh,
You're
I'm
good.
sorry. He looked at me.
That
You're
might
good.
be-
I usually just call them up as they like send them, like gave them to me. Sorry. That you're good. Jeff Pettit.
Jeff said he thought sure you were gonna be last.
You know, every 4 years, we elect council representatives. Every 4 years. But yet, we have this unelected body that makes these momentous decisions regarding preliminary plats for subdivisions over and over and over again. And there's no accountability. I'll bring up 2 specific examples. Oak Grove Townhomes, an F-rated intersection by anybody's standards. And yet, this unelected planning commission approved it. That intersection, anybody that drives it, it's an absolute nightmare. And how did it get approved? I don't know. You tell me. We had 7 unelected planning commissioners approve it. Let's talk about Jamestown Crossing. Let's talk about Highway 930. The state declared it 10 years before unacceptable and was going to fund a reconstruction of it. It got pulled, it got redlined by the governor. Why? I don't know. But the state and the parish recognized that it was a dangerous road and nothing should have been approved on it. Yet this planning commission approved Jamestown 1 and Jamestown 2, putting more traffic on a crumbling, deteriorating road. Why? And what is the recourse for the citizens of this parish? What is our recourse? We have none. They are unelected. There is no recourse for us to do anything about it. Our recourse is with the men and women that we elect to the parish council. Y'all make every zoning decision. It has to come before the council for zoning. Why? do we not require that same standard for preliminary plat approval? Why? We elect y'all. We don't elect these planning commissioners. So where is the accountability? And I'm asking y'all to really think about that. The citizens put our trust in the people we elect. We don't put our trust in these unelected appointed planning commissioners. Make their decisions advisory only. Thank you.
Miss Catherine Bergeron?
Good evening, your time. I'm Catherine Bergeron. I'm a longtime resident of Ascension Parish, 20 years. And I speak for many of the citizens who are concerned that we want our elected officials to be responsible for these development decisions. The Planning Commission is appointed and has not listened to the voices of the people who are affected by all the growth without adequate infrastructure. Citizens are tired of the traffic and drainage problems that are left unaddressed with more and more subdivisions being approved. We need infrastructure first. And again, as a longtime resident, I just think it's prudent to have oversight and accountability. Thank you.
That's it. Okay, we're gonna open up for discussion. And Doc, you got the floor now.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, as you know, I asked back in, I think it was July 1st, to put this on the agenda, and that was in light of Attorney General's opinion number 180175, which I believe, gentlemen, is in all of our packets this evening. At least it was received on that date. I direct you to various language in that opinion, and from an historical standpoint, let the record show that I actually started this when I sat in the hot seat where OJ is sitting right now as chair of this committee back in October of 2018. And the reason we went through that AG opinion, which I think was rendered sometime in late June of 2019, was because legal counsel said that we could not do what I was asking to do and what the several speakers have spoke on tonight, which is make the Planning Commission, like the Zoning Commission, advisory in nature to the council, where they would send up a recommendation and we would agree or disagree with the same, and therefore we would have the responsibility and power of final disposition. So that's what brings us up historically tonight to September of 2019. And again, I'm going to go to the opinion right away and direct you to one main sentence. In there it says, it should, and this is the Attorney General speaking in writing, it should therefore be clear that the powers of the Planning Commission may not be lessened. We couldn't make them, in other words, a recommending body, except, and I want to put that in bold and all capitals for emphasis added, except, which is what I said all along, by an amendment to the homeroom charter adopted by the voters of Ascension Parish, some of which are sitting here this evening, and I thank them for giving up. I know time is precious to them as well as it is to all of us. So there, I think, is a mechanism there. The Attorney General has opined on the same. It's something I'd like to see done and actually voted out of this committee one way or another tonight. And then, and I don't think we need to be timid about it, because the reality is, I was told as chairman that we couldn't fix the badly flawed law in our homeroom charter when there's a firing of an employee, and in the old law, the charter said it would take a two-thirds vote of the parish council to overturn the president's decision to fire an Ascension Parish employee, when we all knew it was happening, because we'd go to one executive session after another, and we would see individuals come in there, and let's say one or more, maybe two or three council members weren't present at that appeal hearing, and they would start off with a no vote, just because the person's absent. I viewed that then, and still do, and always will, as largely unfair. So we put it to a vote of the people, and they agreed and said, okay, how do we change this? We make it two-thirds of a vote of the members present at the employee's appeal. So I humbly submit tonight, we can do the same thing here and put it to a vote of the people. And, you know, a whole lot more people will speak than just the 2 or 3 that spoke tonight, I'm sure, by going to the polls and saying clearly to us one way or another that, you know, as some of the speakers said, they elect us. But when they do that, I'll amplify something that Mr. Pettit said. They do so not knowing at the time they pull the lever who it is we're going to appoint. And therefore, there is, as several people have said, no accountability, because if these people do something, then the council can just run behind their skirts and say, well, I didn't do this. The commission did. And the only recourse they got is, well, you appointed them. I would not like to see citizens in this parish voting for or against me based on that one simple issue. Instead, I'd rather assume the responsibility tomorrow of acting upon a recommendation from the planning commission and therefore be directly accountable, I read that word tonight, to the citizens that I serve. And I pray all my colleagues feel the same way about this. And I don't know if we're going to have a second round or whatever. We all have another thing to go to if we can get through this quicker than not. But I'll reserve comments until I hear other discussion. And thank you for listening.
Todd?
Yes, I've been on board, this is my 5th term, and went to a lot of conventions, and one comes to mind is West Baton Rouge Parish, where Mr. Pee Wee Berthelot's over there, and his council group says that Mr. Pee Wee signs all the plats, subdivision plats in his parish president, but he goes through the council first, and once it's approved, then he's the one that actually does the signing of it. And I thought that to be, like Doc said, we're elected, we should make the choices. I know the planning commission can bring us recommendations, and and behind my mind have always been thinking that we should be the one making that call. And when the councilman from West Baton Rouge was telling me that, I said, and he's been doing that for years, because he's been the parish president over there for probably 20 years or so now. And I think that's how they operate now. That's something we may can look at, some what our surrounding parishes are doing to, you know, are we different than the rest, and, you know, see which ones are working the best, and look at it, you know. Now, I know we got guidelines to follow as a planning commission. They have to follow, if it meets these guidelines legally, they have to vote on it, you know. But it's still the safety and welfare, you know, of the people that we represent. That, you know, I had an issue in my district that I had to fight the developer to stop a subdivision because of drainage, because of traffic where it was entering on a Roddy Road. Just the traffic's ungodly right there, and they was gonna put 110 homes right there at a four-way stop. And I was able to pursue it and you know, get it stopped. And it was a challenge, though. It went on for about 6 months before we finally, you know, and I caught a lot of heat from the developer, but it's just, I believe in sensible building. There's places that we can build with the infrastructure that's there, which it's not gonna cause so much hardship to the people of the parish. And that's something we do need to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me get back with you now.
it's my understanding, and I spoke to O'Neill about this and spoken to other people, state level, that Planning and Zoning Commission is required by state statute for every parish, whether you're a police jury, parish council, whatever form of government you have, home rule charter. And that the process, I don't know of any planning and zoning officials that are elected. So the process has been established that people apply. They are interviewed by a personnel committee in our case, and others, they may have a HR advisory group, whatever you want to call it. And they interview these people, and they consider the qualifications and the, you know, all aspects. And that, it's an independent selection process. You know, each member votes, and then the points are tallied by the secretary, and then they rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. that process is something that I don't know how we get around it if we're going to try to change it. If it's a state statute and we're in compliance, how do we change it at the local level? And secondly, Doc, I read in I guess it's the last paragraph, that the state statute requires a 2/3 vote of the council in order to overrule a subdivision disapproved by the planning commission. As such, opting out of the 2/3 vote requirement, effectively limiting the planning commission to an advisory capacity, is prohibited by Louisiana Statute 33.103F, and would exceed the authority vested in the Home Rule Charter Community by Law Constitution, Article 6, 5E. It is therefore the opinion of this office that the council may not propose an amendment to the charter to opt out of the requirement of the Louisiana RS 33-109A, that a 2/3 vote of the legislative body is required to overrule a subdivision disapproved by the planning commission. That's in the last paragraph. It said, however, nothing precludes the council from reviewing the decisions of the planning commission.
Yeah.
So we can review them, but it requires a 2/3 vote to override. That's the way I interpret it.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm wrong.
Can I address that, Mr. Chairman?
Doc, it's up for discussion here.
Well,
I just want to make
I
sure, are
think
you
not-
through?
Yeah,
All right,
I was
go ahead,
just,
Doc.
Mr. Cagley, you-
no, I'm done. I was
Well,
just-
as Todd said, not only is this going on in Baton Rouge, let me also submit that the parish of Livingston has the same situation that we're trying to achieve. So either they're both in violation of some alleged state laws and so forth, or they're not. In other words, their planning commission is advisory in nature. Let me go further. I already quoted, but I'm going to repeat it. It should therefore be clear that the powers, this is right of the opinion, of the planning commission may not be lessened, except, emphasis I said on the word except, by an amendment to the homeroom charter. So when you ask, how can we try to change it? That's how we try to change it, in the vote of the people, adopted by the voters of Ascension Parish. There's another sentence in there I'd draw your attention to as well, and I will fully admit, I don't believe that the Attorney General's opinion was very, you know how these attorneys use this term, inartfully crafted. I mean, if I'd have wrote the opinion,
Simple, clear.
we wouldn't even be here arguing about it tonight. But I'm going to pick up Mr. Cagg on another one. Quote, referencing an early opinion, remember the opinion we got is 180175, but an early Attorney General's opinion, 030110, note the difference of the two numbers, for the proposition that we were looking for, said, quote, powers granted to the planning commission or those set by state law, as Mr. Cagley just said. And there's the key at the end of the sentence, unless, I'm going to put that in capitals in bold, and until, I'm going to put that in capitals in bold and bigger font, the charter, that's our homeroom charter, is amended to provide otherwise. I submit, and I don't want to go get another Attorney General opinion to get rid of the confusion here, and I don't want to get into I'm going to rue saying this word because it'll probably be in the newspaper tomorrow, a pissing contest with our legal counsel or anything. But I read the thing entirely different, and I read it as a vindication of what I said all along. We are a local governing authority. I don't believe the state of Louisiana, in its spirit and actual will, cares a rat's patootie about what we do at a local level, provided that we do things fairly. And what's the difference here? We heard tonight about the disconnect, and I want to make a comment about something else that you said, Mr. Cagley. Yes, these people are appointed. Yes, they're ranked through the personnel committee that Mr. Cagley chairs and all. And I have no problem. That's all fair process. The problem is the name is set forward. Now, let's think about this for a minute. And let's say it's Johnny Smith. And so Doc Sadley sat in. I'm not a member of the committee, and I didn't like Johnny Smith's interview at all. I liked Mary Smith. So it comes up to the council to vote and seat these people. And I have the right, and I do, and I have, in record, that's easy to see, say, you know what, I don't agree, I'm sorry, committee and Mr. Cagley with Johnny, but I like Mary Smith. I'd like to substitute that name, and then it's voted on. But if I lose that vote, guess what happens? I'm now disconnected again. I like this word when we're using it with minority groups. I'm disenfranchised from my voters. And there's no accountability again. And all I can say is, well, I tried. And let me tell you, next election, they go, well, you didn't try hard enough. You're out too. You're part of this team. I'm just one member. What I'd like to see, though, is a team have better and fairer rules for everyone. And the fairer rule to me would be, just like we do in zoning, those are big decisions. Someone comes in there and they want to change their property from medium residential to mixed use. Heck, I've seen some come through, all the way through the council, where they'd go from conservation to industrial. You want to talk about radical change? And it get done. So I think that when the people elect us, they're elected, yes, a lot of my colleagues tell me, Doc, you're wrong about this. When they elect you, they're giving you a mandate that whatever you do, okay, you're doing that in their behalf and they trust you. No, I don't believe, because I'm a voter, and when I pull a lever, I don't think of that at all. I just say, you know what, I hope this person can do the absolute best that they can do for me, and if they don't next time, fool me once, fool me twice, I ain't voting for you. Well, how do we do that right now with this large disconnect? It's not a problem with zoning, but it is with planning, the way I look at it. And just, even with just the two precedents that I cited, even with the referencing of the early opinion 03-0110 compared to the current opinion 18-0175, which is inawfully crafted, where one of them says unless and until the charter is amended or to provide otherwise, and the other one says may not be lessened the powers except, there's the big word, by amendment of the charter adopted by voters of the parish of Ascension. I think the Attorney General is saying, guys, if y'all want to try this, go for it. And let's see what the people want, because this is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And we darn well better start acting like it and not just try to keep things in place because traditionally that's the way we've been doing them for the last, I don't know, but I believe our homeroom charter, Mr. Dawson, is about 25 years old. At least I was told when I tried to change it that you could never do that because it's never had, that was another reason. We've never changed it in 25 years. Heck, the Constitution of the United States has how many amendments now? I don't believe our forefathers believed, nor do we here at the local level should we believe that our homeroom charter, which is our not federal or state, but it's our local Ascension Parish Constitution, should never be changed. It is not a static document. It is a dynamic document, and we're seeing problems right now at the Planning Commission level, and we're losing trust on a daily basis with the citizens we serve. And one way to get that trust back is to let them speak at the ballot and say, we want you guys to oversee. We're not doing any hard work here. They're still doing it. They're vetting it. Staff's going to recommend to them to approve or disapprove the subdivision. They're going to come forward with a vote. We'll be able to see what that vote is. We can go look at the YouTube film of it, et cetera. We can look at the minutes, the packet, et cetera. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be a rubber stamp. But there are going to be some times, Mr. Pettit cited 2 of them. I'm not sure I captured them. Yes, I did in the back of the page. Oak Grove Townhouses and Jamestown Crossing. Actually, 2 filings there, JC1 and JC2. Outrageous stuff, in my mind. I hated it when it happened, but I was powerless. I'm going to repeat that, powerless to do anything about it. Now, I stand before you tonight and I ask y'all to support this. I beg you, I plead with you, I pray that you'll support this and we'll get this out of committee, hopefully with a unanimous vote so it'll even go on a consent decree. Someone wants to pull it out, that's our system, and that's fine too, and we can discuss it again and bring more people, and maybe we'll have a whole lot more people tonight because there's another event that's competing with this even as we speak, and I already spoke too long, so it probably precludes me from speaking there and trying to get some votes. But guys, I think the time has come. We need to let the people decide whether they want to alter our Constitution or not. I think the Attorney General is on board with this. Been going on, like I say, since October when I started it in 2018. Let's do it one way or another tonight. So with that, I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we recommend to the full council that our legal counsel put the necessary language forward, secure a time slot on the ballot to alter our homeroom charter, and as a result of that, then we'll be able to alter our Unified Land Development Code ordinances that affect the same to make the Planning Commission, just like the Zoning Commission, that we will still appoint, advisory in nature on major, it's a good part of my motion here, so Jessica, pay attention to this, and minor subdivisions. I'm not talking about family petitions and all the other things that the naysayers are talking about. Major and minor subdivisions for final disposition by the councilman elected by the people of Ascension Parish. That's my motion.
All right, Doc, that's your motion. But before we move forward with that motion, can I put my little 2 cents in there?
Well, I would ask you to, point of order, to see if we have a second or not, because if there's no second, then there's nobody
Do we
wants
have a second at
discussion.
this time?
I second it for discussion, 'cause I got a little bit more also.
All right, that's discussion, the second for discussion. If you don't mind if I
You can go
put
ahead.
my little 2 cents in on this here. I have no problem with looking at this further go to the people. My problem is, that you have embedded a lot of effort and time in it, just like most of us do. I would like, I'll go back with Todd and say I have administration to go back and see what everybody is doing, give us that information. So, you're right, we might have 1 or 2 different parishes does it different. And we might adopt that, and that's where we can, that's what will be recommended. So, first, I would like, legal to come back, I like administration to come, do their homework and tell us what Livingston doing, what Baton Rouge doing, what, Terrebonne Parish doing, what all of the home rule charters are doing in the state of Louisiana, how are they doing their planning and zoning. You're correct, we might have missed something, but let's get the data, provide the data to this committee and to the public. I do understand it, I really do, but I just don't think we have all the data, we have some people opinion, but let's do the data research and get it here and do it, and then make a firm decision.
With that, I agree.
Mr. Clue,
agree.
Mr. Cagle,
I agree. And in conversations I've had with Todd before this even, I think it's prudent for us to go to the administration, let them do some research and come back to us and say, what are other parishes doing? I mean, some people would view this, well, if you go to this extreme, you're undermining your department, your planning and zoning department, because they make recommendations. And they're supposed to know the rules. And every time there's a vote to override what they recommend, you're undermining the confidence you put in your staff. And that can get to be troublesome. We want to have confidence in the people that are enforcing the rules and the codes we have on the books. So I think it'd be prudent for us to get additional data. And I'll make that substitute motion that we get the administration to come back with some, what's happening elsewhere and give us some options, which way to go.
I'll second that substitute off.
all right, we got a substitute motion by Mr. Cagle, second by Todd. Doc, that substitute motion is up for
Discussion,
discussion.
and you're recognizing me.
I'm recognizing you, Doc, I'm looking at
Good. All right. Poppycock. Okay, guys? And here's why. Why did I talk about even Livingston? Why, Todd, did you the first time talk about East Baton Rouge? Not because we can't, well, maybe you do. I could care a rat's patootie about what they do. This is Ascension Parish. This is not Livingston, and this is not East Baton Rouge. I only put it forward on Livingston because it, in addition to the Attorney General's opinion, strengthens the case for making this change because it shows that there's precedent. So what's going to happen? We go back now and study it, and you find another one does it, and another one doesn't, or this one doesn't. Is that now going to be the justification for what we do or not? My mother used to tell me when I was a child, Dan, actually she called me Danny, very few people know that. Danny boy. I hated it. Little Frankie Forestier, my best friend down the block. If he jumps off the bridge, does that mean something you should, look at all the head nods out there, that you should do? And the answer is no, because little Johnny Forestier has nothing to do with Danny boy. No more than Livingston or East Baton Rouge or wherever else we can uncover with this study. That's all we ever do around this parish is study things. Gonna really matter. What matters, as I said before, is what the people want. And that's why we have, in a modified consensus democracy we have, we say we have a republic, but in reality, eventually we're going to vote. We're going to vote tonight as a good example. Let the people vote. Now, I heard, with all due respect, Mr. Cagnolati, that, you know, they're supposed to, capture this, to know the rules, meaning the planning commission. Well, apparently they don't. We learned tonight with just 2 examples, and I'll bet if you'd have gave Mr. Pettit more than 3 minutes, he'd have put 8 or 10 more up there. Besides Jamestown Crossing and, what was the other one? I keep forgetting, Oak Grove, the 2 most egregious ones. Okay? So they don't know the rules. So what could we do to help them? We could, at the recommendation stage, inform them, guys, I think you missed this, and we could then exhibit a modified consensus democracy vote and either agree with them or overturn them. That's checks and balances, ladies and gentlemen. That's civics 101. That's why we have what we have in our modified consensus democracy system. And although there used to be a TV program called The Defenders where it comes on and it says, you know what, a democracy, a terrible form of government. And then the next line is very telling, but yet it's the best one we have. And it is, ladies and gentlemen. And your vote is ever so important, and our votes in your behalf are ever so important. But if I can't vote, because I can only appoint, and someone else takes that away from me, again, I'm disenfranchised, I've lost direct accountability and responsibility to my voter. It's plumb wrong, and we have a chance tonight to fix it. And again, I don't care what Livingston's doing, frankly, or East Baton Rouge or others. I'm only putting that forward to show that other people are doing it. But all the naysayers have said nobody's doing that. And I don't want to be jumping off any bridges or anything anytime soon just because other people do them. And I know for sure, this attorney's a general opinion. You know, I believe, frankly, that's why we've had some of the, I didn't want to go there, but some of the procrastination we've had. It states clearly that the powers granted to the Planning Commission are those set forth by state law unless and until the charter is amended to provide otherwise. Later on it states it should therefore be clear, should be to all of us, that the powers of the Planning Commission may not be lessened except by amendment of the charter adopted by the voters of Ascension Parish. Let's give the voters of Ascension Parish that right, that responsibility. It's theirs. I think it's terrible if we're going to take it away from them. And I thank everybody for listening.
Thank you. We got a motion on the floor to let the administration come back with more information to get that information to us at the next meeting.
May I make one other comment? One additional piece of the puzzle, if you want to call it that. Planning and zoning, which is their right, matter of fact, it's their duty to request a master plan. Something that the guideline for them to help enforce or help them understand the future growth of the parish. And we've rolled in the transportation aspect of it, we've rolled in the drainage aspect of it, and when completed, it's going to be, I think, a fabulous document. And what it does, it gives the planning and zoning and other agencies in the parish a guideline that the one they have now, I'm sorry, it's a 1993 document, isn't it, Ken, or something like that?
Correct.
And that's not current. And the parish has changed so much since that was adopted and brought in and started being used. So I speak to Jerome, I speak to Eric, and I speak to Lance. Do y'all have the tools you need? I mean, they just look at me and give me a funny face. I think, and there again, Doc, I'm not arguing that things shouldn't be changed, but we're having a new revelation, if you want to call it that, with the master plan coming out. And I would like to see how that might work under the current system. It gives them new guidelines, it gives them new ways to approach it. And it's not a 2-year, it's not a 5-year. They're looking out 30, 40 years to see, how do we want Ascension Parish to look? How do we want it to grow? And to me, that's smart growth. When you're trying to determine where you want to put parks and recreation, where you want to improve drainage, where you want to develop where it's sensible, and where do you want to restrict development when it doesn't make sense to do so. And I think that the master plan is going to bring a lot to the table. And that's my point.
Okay, that's your point. You open that up, Doc, you won't respond back to him.
Right. I know parliamentary procedure, we're supposed to have at least two rounds, so here's what I'll say in response and in rebuttal. Poppycock again. And why? The master plan, with all due respect, Mr. Cagnolati, was not adopted in 1993. It was, in fact, adopted in 1998. And the comment about it being old and outdated as a result, are you aware that it was altered 2 or 3 times in the 2000s? Now, what the problem was and is likely going to continue to be with the new super replacement plan, okay? Which the public, by the way, was largely kept out of, 60% of their meetings being secretive. Think about that for a minute. Because I went to all the ones that weren't, the other 40%, and the people bled daily about what they wanted, infrastructure guided growth, and it just did find its way into that master plan. And I fully intend, it's one of my platform planks, to repeal like Obamacare, repeal and replace that miserable document that in places allows 9 units per acre. And in my district allows industrial zoning on the airline highway. That's the new perfect document we've got? I don't think so. The people are against all the neighborhood hubs. Went in one ear and out the other. We paid $500,000 for them to do what they wanted to do, CPEX, and not listen to the people. Those are facts. So I maintain what's happened here is not the fact that we've had an old, outdated master plan. It wasn't followed. No more than the new one's going to likely be followed. Because once again, what did the chairman say about that? This chairman we're talking about that we appoint? Okay, and I have limited abilities to ever get him off of there. What did he say? He said, we don't have to follow that. The master plan is not law. It's just guiding us as to what we should be doing. That's one of the reasons I voted not to even spend the $500,000, because what good is a plan that has no teeth? You with me? This is just, we can go on and on with it, but I want the record to be clear tonight. This old plan, wasn't 1993, it was 98, modified several times, okay, making it younger and younger each time, and that's what you do with all plans, but it just wasn't followed. And now we think we've got the panacea, we've got the ointment, we can get rid of the poison ivy, whatever tomorrow,
Doc,
and we don't.
Doc, I don't want this, but I shouldn't have let Cagnolati went on the plan.
Well, but you did,
I
Mr.
know.
Chairman, and in fairness,
once again,
I-
we're off topic.
We're not off topic, sir.
We are topic.
What we have,
The
we have.
agenda item
We all
just
went to
said
parliamentary
modified.
procedure
That's
workshop,
it.
and I'm entitled to 10 minutes twice. That's the law. That's what we've adopted in our bylaws. I'll take anyone to task that says otherwise. Okay? Now, I want to leave too and go to the
Make
next
sure we
day.
start putting the time up on limit from
No.
now on.
I'll tell you what,
for every
I'll
topic.
make it easier. You can't do that. That's illegal. Call the question.
Motion's on the floor to let administration, come back with the information for other parish. And
Also, legal opinion.
legal opinion. We'll have legal here. Administration, please have legal here at the next meeting,
Will do.
okay?
Because being it's a state statute, I want to make sure we are doing, that's why I'm seconded the substitute. I want to make sure we're going by the.
Sure.
Okay? All right, vote. All in favor?
No.
We have one no. Roll call.
Councilman Satterly,
No.
Councilman Lambert,
Yes.
Councilman Cagnolati,
Yes.
Councilman Joseph.
Yes. Yes, have it. Motion passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.